Welcome to the June 25th, 2025 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I'm Candace Breyer, Chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a 9-person volunteer board nominated by the mayor and approved by City Council. First, we will hear from Planning Services, represented tonight by John Barrett. Then the applicant or their representative will make their presentation. Applicants will have 5 minutes in which to make their presentation. Staff will keep time and will announce when 30 seconds are remaining. Public comment is available in person or remotely. We will first call on individuals present to address the board, then remote participants. To speak during a public hearing or during public comment remotely, press *9 if listening by phone, or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. For phone access, call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 938-1648-1007. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand using the last 3 digits of your phone number or by name if available for those accessing through the web link. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sounds. We may ask questions of either the city or the applicant. We will acknowledge any written comments received by the board. We will allow an appearing party to express their support or objections. The board will then discuss the appeal and formulate a motion to approve the appeal. 5 affirmative votes of the board will be required for an appeal to be granted. Finally, any qualified party who is aggrieved by a decision of the board can appeal that decision to the Washtenaw County Circuit Court on a timely basis. Roll call. Candace Breyer, I am here. Todd Grant.
I am here.
Dave DeVarty.
DeVarty here.
Patty Leskowski. Julie Weatherby.
Here.
Drew Denson. Mike Daniel. Dharma Ackman. Christina Glusak. Here. We have a quorum of 5. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any comments on the agenda? If not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Dave. Support? Julie? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Moving on to approval of minutes. We have minutes from the May 28th, 2025 ZBA meeting. Are there any questions, comments, corrections on those minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve the May minutes? Julie, support? Todd, thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, moving on to public hearings. We have our first petition, ZBA 25-0014, 812 Pauline Boulevard. John?
So the applicant has requested that this petition be postponed this evening and moved to the July 23rd agenda.
I don't have any issues with that. Does anyone else on the board have issues?
Sounds good. Do you need a motion for that, or?
We will.
I move that we
Hold on one second. We do have to take any public comment because it was noticed. So if there's anyone here that wants to speak on this petition, they can do so. It will be renoticed and there will be another public hearing at the subsequent meeting when we hear this item again. So you're welcome to hold your comment until that meeting as well. So is there any public comment on petition ZBA 25-0014 for Pauline Boulevard? Anybody online? Okay, so with that, the public hearing's closed, and then Dave, if you would like to make a motion.
I move that we move this or it's, what do you call it? Petition to the July meeting.
Second.
All right, all in favor of postponing this petition to the July ZBA meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, this item is postponed. Moving on to petition ZBA 25-0015, 1780 Asio Church Road. John?
I'm John Barrett, zoning coordinator for the city of Ann Arbor. Sarah Lawrence, representing the property owner, is requesting a 400 square foot variance from table 5.16-2 lot area and floor area requirements for accessory dwelling units, also known as ADUs. Up to one 800-square-foot ADU is permitted for a property greater than 7,200 square feet. The proposed ADU is 1,064 square foot in floor area. The property is zoned R1C Single Family Dwelling District. The subject property is located on the north side of Sile Church Road and west of Pioneer High School in the Dickin neighborhood. The subject property is 9,452 square feet in area. The parcel has a 30-foot wide access easement on the east side of the parcel that is used for egress for an existing single-family dwelling, which is addressed in the rear of the property at 1784 Sile Church Road. The subject property is currently vacant. The applicants are proposing to construct a new single-family residence with an attached accessory dwelling unit. The primary unit contains 2,070 square feet of floor area and an accessory dwelling unit attached with 1,200 square feet of floor area. The primary unit will consist of 3 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. The accessory unit will have 2 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. Both dwelling units will have basements, exterior decks, and an attached 2-car garage. The maximum size allowed for an accessory dwelling unit for a lot that is over 7,200 square feet in area is 800 square feet. The 3 floors of 400 square feet in area exceed the allowable 800 square foot total. If you will, and also I've attached in the staff report, you'll see that section 5.16.6 subsection D and this table and the requirements are attached in your staff report. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the first slide shows the, is it showing? It's not showing up? Give me 1 second. There we go. The first slide shows the subject property. It's highlighted in green in the center of your screen. And you can see the surrounding zoning districts. Like I said, the subject property is zoned R1C. The next slide is the neighborhood map showing surrounding properties and existing conditions. And the next slide is the zoomed-in aerial photo of the subject property. And you can see that 30-foot wide access easement accessing this property back here. And the one on the right is 1780, and the one on the left is 1788. The next slide is the survey that was submitted with the application. And the house that shows on there right now, it says below it, it's been demolished, and it's currently, like I said, the parcel is currently vacant. Next slide are floor plans and elevation drawings that were submitted with the petition and a subsequent building permit as well. On the left, you can see that there is a foundation plan. You see the accessory dwelling unit basement foundation on the left and the principal primary unit on the right. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the basement floor plans for both units. The next slide shows the first and second floor plans. The first floor plans for use, both units are on the right-hand side, and the second floor plans are on the left-hand side of the screen. These are the elevation drawings showing what the finished product will resemble. These are cross sections or building sections of the proposed structures. Another building section. These are photos that we took on our inspection of the site. You see the mailboxes, the address, and this is looking down Sile Church towards the west. This is a sign that's installed on the subject property. This is 1780. That's the property to the rear. Just looking at another perspective of the property, overall perspective. And that is all I have at this time. I will take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, John. Questions? Todd?
I have 2 questions, John. Give me the rationale for limiting the sizes of the ADUs to 800 feet I mean, it might be that the council wanted to distinguish on one hand between ADUs and on another hand between a freestanding home, and decided to make this as the square footage limit. Is that the thinking, or what is the thinking behind the ADU limit?
You're on the right track. So accessory dwelling units were approved in approximately 2018, and they've somewhat replaced what they used to be formerly called as like a mother-in-law suite or a granny flat. They're supposed to be subordinate to the principal structure, and so planning and council decided on a square footage allotment, and if a lot is 7,200 square feet or less, they're allowed a 600 square foot ADU, and any lot that exceeds 7,200 square feet is allowed an 800 square foot ADU. So they're trying to keep them as another housing option, if you would, and the maximum occupancy is limited to two persons, two individuals, and so they're just it can be either on the interior of a property, like say a converted basement that's separated from the upper floors, a attached unit like this would be attached side by side, or a detached one, or say a second story of a garage.
So that leads me into my second and last question. If there was not an option for an ADU, am I correct in assuming that this lot is too small to build two freestanding separate homes? That there's not enough square footage?
Well, this property is zoned R1C single family, and it would not qualify for two separate single homes. It qualifies for a principal dwelling unit and then an accessory dwelling unit.
Thank you.
Yeah, Darma.
So, does the basement count towards the square footage? Because I thought typically it doesn't.
It does, based on the floor area definition in the Unified Development Code.
Specifically for ADUs?
Not for ADUs, for all
Okay.
structures.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's determined by exterior walls, exterior faces of walls, length times width.
Okay. For
And-
some reason, I
yeah.
thought that it was excluded. Okay.
Julie?
So, John, I noticed in the applicant response, it says the person's been searching for a home to buy for years. The ADU home is the only home ownership option available. Can you buy an ADU separately from the home it's?
So the two structures, if say there's a principal dwelling unit and an ADU on the same property, yes, they can be under different
So
ownership.
it's like a condo kind of
Yes,
agreement?
condo, yep.
Okay.
That was one of the, adjustments that council made about 3 years ago, I think, in 2022. I can't remember the exact date, right around there. They eliminated some of the regulations with ADUs, and that was one of them, to allow for separate ownership.
Dave?
What's the difference between an attached ADU like this and a duplex?
The duplex could only be in an R2A district, not an R1D, and a duplex, there's no size limitation on each unit. So you could have two
Any size.
single-family dwelling units attached, and they could be 3,000 square feet each.
Gotcha.
But this district doesn't allow
But this
for
correct.
duplexes.
Correct.
Any other questions for John? All right, if the petitioner is here, if you could please come forward, sign in, state your name for the record, you'll have 5 minutes.
May I pass out these materials? Do not bring them up, so you can share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What appeal number is this?
This is ZBA 25-0015.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Lorenz. I'm here as both the developer and a neighbor
because I live in that house right there in the picture. I am also the executive director of a new nonprofit developer named the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust. A number of local residents and I formed this nonprofit last year, and all of us are involved in some way in the field and in advocating for affordable housing. And so several of us had lots that we decided to put into the nonprofit. We sold those at cost and have been working to develop affordable housing on these properties. So the two that we're discussing tonight, we're very excited about. We have designed this primary home and an attached accessory dwelling unit to be built hopefully on almost any lot in Ann Arbor. Our architect, Chris Allen, is here tonight, and he assisted us in designing a home and an ADU that could be placed almost anywhere. We did work from the accessory dwelling unit guidebook from the city in designing these homes, and we designed the ADU to be a maximum of 800 square feet. But the guidebook states square feet and not floor area, and much further into the process, we were informed by planning staff that it is 800 square feet of floor area, not just 800 square feet. And so we did not realize that a basement would not be allowed because that is included in the definition of floor area. And so these 800 square foot homes that are going to be sold to our critical workers, they're going to be pretty snug at 800 square feet, and we had anticipated them being able to have a laundry room and some storage in the basement, and then we found out that that would not be allowed. And therefore, we're here asking for a variance so that these folks can have a basement. We have our buyers with reservations on these two units at 1780 and 1788 Scioto Church. They're here to give a comment. And I, as a neighbor, am very much in favor of this. And we have other neighbors who are in favor of it as well. These homes are going to be part of the Ann Arbor Community Land Trust. They will be sold at below market rates at a loss. We are applying for grants and subsidies to fund part of the construction costs. And they will have a deed restriction so that they will stay permanently affordable as long as the structures survive. And then, in 150 years, if someone in the future then needs to tear them down, then they can build more homes that will be set aside for our critical workers here in the city. So we're very excited to start producing this type of housing. We hope that it's going to be replicable and that we can get some adjustments to the ADU ordinance so that we do not have to apply for a variance each time. But we have people who are eager to have their homes built and be able to move in soon. So that's why we're here applying for the variance. Any questions?
Thank you. Questions for the petitioner? Dave?
So my understanding is you're looking basically for uninhabitable space that would be for the mechanicals, like the furnace, utilities, like appliances for washer and dryer or whatever, not for bedrooms or bathrooms or habitable use, but just
Correct.
accessory to the use of the dwelling unit.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Is
Todd?
that worked into the deed as well then, to remain as an unusable space for habitation?
That's not currently in the deed restriction.
So in the future, it could be converted to a livable space that meets code for egress and so
Yes, there are, we would put egress windows, but we assume that if someone wanted to convert it to living space, they would have to apply for another variance. And when I applied for this, I didn't fully understand the floor area ratios. Our architect can speak to that, but I believe it's 264 square feet is the amount over and not 400 square feet.
Can the staff clarify?
I can clarify that. It is actually 400 square feet, and it's probably a little bit more. The architect in this did not calculate it in like landings and staircases, and those have to be counted towards the square foot, the overall square footage. I can show you on the plans that were submitted. Right here, there's the white areas in the stairwells. Those weren't added in to the overall square footage.
But they need to be.
Yes, floor area is defined as exterior wall to exterior wall.
Todd, did you have a question?
Ma'am, can you just eliminate the basement? And that would subtract 400 square feet, correct?
So we could, but we think that that's an unjust burden on our community servants who have very limited housing options. And since no one who doesn't enter the home would ever know that there's a basement or not, we feel like it is a good thing for people to have a basement with a laundry room and storage.
I don't really follow your logic. I always thought my sister lives in Florida and has no basement. I always thought a basement was sort of a Michigan homeowner curse, actually, something to leak. But I don't understand the reasoning. What would not having a basement do again?
Well, the owners of these homes are here to speak to that, actually.
Well, but you're the architect, I'm asking you, ma'am.
I have always had basements in all my homes. I have children. When you're raising
I'm
children.
not asking about your basement. I'm asking what would the removal of the basement do to this particular design? That's my question.
Well, then they don't have any place to store their holiday decorations or sleeping bags or have a place for a laundry room.
Okay.
Dave?
So there's a primary unit and then this ADU. Are
Yes.
both units part of the land trust, and will both units be occupied by proposed to be occupied by these lower income tenants?
Yes,
Or I guess they'll be homeowners.
yes.
I mean, what your plan is that they develop equity and the growth in the equity is limited. I'm a little bit familiar with land trust options, and so the affordability carries forward indefinitely because of that limitation on equity growth.
Correct.
So it can't be because of the high demand for Ann Arbor, the first owner can turn it over for a big windfall because their growth in equity is limited based on how long they're there and with that like cap on what it could go up. So that maintains a relative permanence to this affordability, which is a lot, I would argue, and I think that probably I should do this as a question. Would you argue that that sort of permanence is more desirable for our community than these subsidies from the federal government that just require affordability for 15 years and then it transfers to market rate?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, these homes should be able to serve, 5 generations of public servants here in Ann Arbor.
Thank you very much.
And all the units are being sold at a loss, and we are having to apply for grants and subsidies in order to do that.
Is this the first application of this unit to a parcel in town that you're aware of? at this
Yes.
size? Okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
If
thank
there
you.
is anyone, yes, Dave?
Would it be appropriate to ask a question of staff before the next
Yeah, go
person?
ahead.
Or you can just wait till the end.
Or you can wait till after the public hearing.
Well, I think this could impact questions I'm going to ask of the architect.
Okay, go ahead.
So in terms of this proposed basement space, I know there's an issue of habitability. And actually, I think the tax assessor doesn't assess the basements that are used for laundry rooms, et cetera, like unused habitable space, doesn't assess that the same way as they assess the rest of the house. I know this for a fact because I've appealed tax assessments. Is there a limit, and I know there some basements in Ann Arbor, as somebody who manages rental housing and has worked in the rental housing arena primarily on the tenant side for most of my life, there is a limit on height for the basement for habitability, is my understanding, that if it's under a certain height, it's not considered habitable and therefore only used for mechanical purposes or for storage. Is that true?
Yes, that's a building code requirement, the state of Michigan building code, and I believe it's 78 inches.
So 6.5 feet.
Correct.
Thank you.
I also just want to clear up one thing. The applicant stated that a possible future owner would have to apply for a variance if they were to finish the basement. Tonight, if you grant the variance, it's formalizing this basement, and they wouldn't have to come back to this board to get a variance to do that. They would just apply for a building permit.
All right, at this point, if anyone from the public wishes to speak, come forward, sign in, state your name, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Chris Allen, the architect for A2CLT. First off, I want to address the basement issue. Another reason why to have a basement is obviously for tornadoes and safety, to have a place to shelter during a tornado or storm, on a day like today, for instance, possibly, who knows. But again, I think that's very important reason to have a basement is for safety, for tornado safety, or high wind safety, that is. And all we're asking for, essentially, is an unfinished basement here, as we've noted previously. That's all we want, for mechanical space, storage, et cetera. I've spoken to John Barrett before. John, I appreciate your help. I've emailed John way back about a year ago. We've been through a long process on this project. Just want to clarify the floor area, John. Under the standard definition of what you know as floor area, we would have 420 square feet per floor, 15 by 28. Under the UDC definition of floor area, which is what I have shaded on that front page, we don't count stairwells and landings in that UDC definition in your development code. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. If we want to go by the standard definition of floor area, it's 420 square feet per floor, 1,260 square feet overall. Therefore, we need a 460 square foot variance, okay? If we use the standard definition of floor area. I won't take up too much more time. I just want to clarify a couple things for you. If you have any other questions, I'll be here. But again, it's been a long process, and we're itching to get going building these things. I want to see them built myself. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Oh, Dave, did you have a question?
I had a question of the architect. So given that this space is intended for mechanicals, laundry, storage, et cetera, not for habitation, would it be possible to design the basements to meet that 78-inch code to be less than that, so it's not considered habitable space under our code, under the housing code?
Yeah, I mean, that's possible, but again, as you noted before, somebody could come back, somebody needs more space, could come back to the Zoning Board of Appeals and say, hey, I want to finish that basement because I need more space.
Well, if it's not big enough, height-wise,
Yeah.
they'd have to get a variance.
Well, a building code variance, yes,
Right.
as well as a zoning variance. Why don't we give them the opportunity in the future to have a habitable space down there? It's a standard way of building a basement, so I don't see a positive result of having a shorter basement wall essentially down there. And I think it gives them an opportunity in the future if they want to come back to the ZBA and say, look, I want to finish my basement. That's why we put for instance, all basements nowadays in the code have to have an egress window, no matter what. In the new basements, that is, have to have an egress window for that very reason, because people want to go down there sometimes, and that'll give them a safe way out if necessary of the basement. So we'll have an egress window. They'll have the opportunity to finish it off at some point in the future by doing this just a standard basement.
Thank you.
And also, they have a place for, obviously, for tornadoes and other emergencies as well. So thank you very much. Anybody else?
Were there any other questions for the architect? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public who wishes to speak, please come forward, sign in, state your name, now's your chance.
Yes, thank you. My name is Marietta McGraw, and I'm the future owner of the 1780 Side Church Road, two-bedroom town, the small one. I came here tonight to ask for your approval for a variance, an exception of the zoning code, which would allow the building of a basement to my home. I feel very fortunate and very excited to be the home buyer of this lovely townhome after applying for it. This opportunity to own a home in our city is incredibly important to me and to my family. Sorry. Okay, here it is. It means stability for us. I have been living in Ann Arbor for the past 20 years. I have been working as a teacher at Ann Arbor Public Schools since 2010. I'm a single parent and my child goes to Ann Arbor Public Schools. She's here today with me. I'm invested in our community and yet I have been renting for many years now, unable to afford a home. I have been looking at the housing market for the past several years, but the housing prices, the increase in the property taxes, and the lower teaching salaries have made it difficult for me to buy a home until now. The A2COT Townie Homes project is such a great opportunity to own a home here at an affordable price. The lower price that I would pay to purchase the little townie home provides me with the path to a more secure future for me and for my daughter. This would be my first and probably forever home, and I'm hoping that it would allow the building of a basement in it, so that we could have a laundry room and a storage space and a safe space for if in case of tornado. It is possible that no one would ever know that my home has a basement, but it would make such a big difference for me and for my daughter. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak on this petition?
Hi, my name is Liz. This is my daughter Felicity, and we would be the neighbors next door in the 1788 SIO house in the auxiliary unit. I have been in Ann Arbor for the past 9 years. I work at Michigan Medicine as a researcher in climate change and health equity. And similarly, I'm a single mom, and it is really hard to find housing that would be affordable in the city, so I've been living outside of the city and having to commute in. My daughter goes to daycare here, I work here, and I would very much appreciate to have the basement area as both storage and places for her to play. And I appreciate you all considering that here today.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Martin Javerniski. My wife Robin and I live at 1760 Scioto Church Road, which is immediately to the east of this property. And we have absolutely no objection to having these affordable homes built there. And in fact, we're supporters of this land trust idea, and very much hope that you will be sympathetic to the needs of these folks in trying to find affordable housing in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, yep.
Hello, my name is Elijah. My partner and I actually were awarded in the lottery with the big townie, so we're the adjacent neighbors to Marietta, and we do not object in any way to them having more space and a more useful space in their home. We feel it could be beneficial, like someone else may have mentioned earlier, for safety reasons, tornado and things like that. We have no objections at all, and we feel like it could be a useful space beyond, safety measures as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else present who wishes to speak?
So, hi, I'm Leslie Mason. I may be the only person who's here to speak slightly in opposition to this ADU change. So my house, and I live, when you looked at the screenshot, you could actually see my property on your screenshot of the neighborhood. I'm on Hanover, just a little bit over to the east of that house. I'm the second house in on Hanover. My house is the same size as this ADU that they are planning to put in. And I always thought an ADU was supposed to be an accessory dwelling unit, not the size of a home. So I look at it and go, you're putting a house in next to a house. And to me, that seems problematic. I fully support the idea of getting additional housing in and doing this as a duplex or however it is. A basement isn't a necessity. My parents lived in a house on a slab for 35 years in Michigan. It is not a necessity in Michigan. If you feel that you need something to weather a storm in, you can put in a storm shelter. Those do exist, and it would serve everybody on that property. So I guess to me, I would rather see that basement shrunk to a size where it can't be turned into something that is habitable, and have it stick to the current ADU rules rather than coming in at the size of many, many, many of the houses in the neighborhood that this backs up to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have a question, Dave?
Possible to ask you a question?
Sure.
Does your house have a basement?
It does. So it's my second home. I had to buy a house somewhere else in order to be able to afford to move here. And my parents actually wanted to live in Ann Arbor when I was a kid and couldn't afford to live here then. So our problem with the price of housing in Ann Arbor is not new. It's been going on for a long, long, long time. Thank you.
Anyone? Oh, yep.
No.
Not as part of this forum, sorry.
Hi, my name is Nellie Guibert-Dupre, and I own the house which is directly west of this property. I have a question for the road. How are they going to access the road to go out of the property?
That's probably a question best answered by the applicant or their architect, not something that we can answer.
I can answer it as well. On this screen right here, there's an overall site plan, and there will be a curb cut proposed right here, and then it'll go down the center of the property, and it'll serve both 1788 and 1780.
So then they would have to access that road from the east of the property. There is no access presently. The sidewalk is a straight sidewalk, correct?
So the property owners, during construction, they would apply for a right-of-way permit from our engineering department for a new curb cut and apron to cut into Scioto Church for a new egress and ingress point, and it would go down the center of the two properties as an easement. And access both properties. If you can see the cursor coming down the driveway, and then you turn left into that garage and turn right into that garage.
I see.
And there'd be a new driveway, new curb cut on Scioto Church.
Okay. How close are the houses to my property line?
It's zoned R1C, so the
Yes.
minimum required setback is 5 feet on the side lot lines or the west lot
Only
line.
5 feet?
Yep. Same with yours. Yours is probably zoned R1C as well, so
Right.
you have 5-foot side yard setbacks too.
I see. I was under the impression that it was 20 feet, but whatever. So when we bought the house, my husband and I, we had a very beautiful landscape in front of us. It was like as if we were in the country, yet we were in the city. And little by little, it got chipped away. And my neighbor actually is my neighbor who is north of me, is very close to the house that Mrs. Lorenz has, and her husband have built. I am worried about too close of a proximity, but I am happy to have neighbors who are coming in. And the other thing that I'm asking about is, how would this affect my property value?
That's not something that this board would be able to answer. That's something that you'd have to talk to either a real estate professional or possibly the city assessor's office.
I see. Well, in
But that's
other words,
not part of this,
zoning-
that would not be part of this
Oh, okay.
forum tonight.
All right. Well, those are my only concerns. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you.
So, my name is Konstantin Voik. I live next to Nelly in this neighborhood. And I feel it's like bending behind about rules. It's not quite appropriate. So we have neighborhood with similar, smaller, bigger houses, and it has specific vibe to the city. And I really appreciate Sarah make like some kind affordability approach. I think it's something that need to be done, but it should not be done at the extent of like turning like cities that are, or neighborhoods that already established and have some kind of vibe into something different under the flag of being affordable. It could be built just instead of 2 units, 1 unit, relatively big, and make it affordable. And people who would live in this unit would feel like they part of this community instead of like having a relatively small parcel, put their houses very tight, and then on the umbrella that, oh, we need affordable house, now expand it and make this looks completely different from other units. This is my actually concern, that it's like I'm for making houses affordable, but make them the same as other houses or as this community where they're going to build, the same way, instead of like modifying rule. It's not to make them affordable, it's now they're already affordable, way how they are approved, but now under the umbrella of affordability, like make them bigger, and then surrounding communities will suffer from this. So this is me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from anyone here? If there is anyone accessing the meeting online, you may press star 9 or use the raise hand button to make a comment.
There are no callers at this time.
Thank you, Charlie. With that, the public hearing is closed and we're in discussion. Dave?
A question for John. Can we put this slide up that has the aerial view? So I was over here today. The drive to the west, is that a private drive? Because it seemed not as wide as the public streets, and I didn't really see a street sign on it. And there are 4 properties that drive accesses. And I'm just wondering if that, I just started thinking about access into this property when one of the speakers was asking about access to the property, and then I was thinking, well, there's this properties to the west that have what looks to me not a public street serving 4 houses.
I think that's a public street.
You do?
I'm not 100% positive, but I'm not sure. It's not, I don't know. Is it a private street? Not sure. I'm not sure it's relevant to this tonight's discussion.
Well, I'm just thinking
but
in terms of the access in the area for other people.
I'm sorry, we're in discussion right now.
That's it, probably not relevant.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would agree. I don't know if it is.
Dharma?
This is a very interesting variance request to come before us as the city is deep in discussions about our comprehensive land use plan, because I think it points to the ways in which creating affordable housing through a land trust, which I completely support the idea. I've talked to Sarah several times. So I love the idea behind what you're doing. And these questions about basement, I get why basement space is important, and also how lot size impacts on what can be affordable or not. All of that said, though, when I look at the criteria by which we're to evaluate these, and again, I want to be able to support things like this, but I think it points to ways in which our zoning code needs to change with respect to ADUs or probably other things. Because when I look at the first criteria that we're to judge on, practical difficulties are exceptional and peculiar to the property of the person requesting the variance and result from conditions which do not exist generally throughout the city. I think this is almost by definition would be an issue all over the place with respect to ADUs. So I'm not really seeing what is special about this example. Instead, I see a potential for precedent setting, and therefore that to me suggests that this is not appropriate to take for a vote, to accept for a variance request, but rather should suggest some changes to the zoning.
I am inclined to agree with you, Dharma, as much as I want to support this, and I support the general idea of it, and I understand the need behind it. I'm not sure that a variance is the right avenue to pursue this. I think the real answer lies maybe with changes to the UDC as it applies to ADUs, and maybe there's language about basements in ADUs and how that could impact the total floor area. Maybe it's excluded, maybe it's, maybe there's something added to that language that says they're permitted to have a basement up to a certain size that doesn't count in that 800 square feet. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm not sure that a variance is the answer. Other opportunities might be rezoning to a district that would allow duplex buildings, and then you could construct this as a duplex and not an ADU, which would provide some greater flexibility. Again, I don't know that that's an easier path, but it's an alternative path. So yeah, this is a tricky one for me. Dave?
Well, I was looking at our criteria, and I checked the first three that I think this request meets. The peculiarity of this property is that it's a land trust, which means it's deed restricted for equity buildup, and the affordability is permanent. That doesn't exist on most of the properties in the community. So this is unique in that way. And actually, I'd like to see more of these properties going into land trusts, which then provides permanent affordability as opposed to just something that a 15-year subsidy from the federal government would provide temporary affordability. So I see this as a unique and peculiarity of this proposed property development that meets standard number one. I also see on the issue of attaining a higher financial return, this development has no reason to, or is not looking for maximizing financial return. In fact, they're looking for subsidies and grants to reduce the price of the housing. So I think it meets number two as well because of that. And the third thing, we are fighting for affordable housing for the lowest income people in our community. And in terms of resulting in substantial justice being done, I can't think of anything that would meet that standard more than this development. I'm definitely going to vote for it. I hope my fellow board members do as well. I understand the concerns, but we're at a unique inflection point with what's going on with prices in this community and the ability of the service sector employees or people at even, making $25 an hour, being able to find places to live. And this is a very small, modest request. It's 800 square foot building that needs a basement. The other part, I think, will comply with the basement without that. But the smaller of the two buildings needs a basement. I lived for many years in a 1,400 square foot house with 4 bedrooms, and every bedroom was occupied. And the basement was it was a 2-story, maybe it was 600, 650 square feet per floor. And the basement, we needed it for the furnace, we needed it for the hot water heater, we needed it for the washer and dryer, we needed it for storage. Nobody lived down there. And I see these requests coming to us or I guess maybe we won't be seeing them anymore, for alteration to a non-conforming structure, where people are doing massive rebuilding of basements to turn a property that has maybe 8 bedrooms into a 3-unit building with 3 6-bedroom apartments for 18, and we're just letting that go. Our code is just letting that go, and yeah, that housing is needed in these student districts, and it will be occupied at high rents, like $1,000 a bedroom and up. This is the kind of housing we need. I think it meets our standards maybe in creative ways, but this is a creative project, and it's really the kind of creative solution we need to address the issue of housing affordability in this community. And I would hope that other people, I say this is exceptional and peculiar to this property because it's a land trust. I would hope that other people will come forward and say, let's put some more properties into land trusts that will be permanently capped on housing costs, so we have permanent affordability on these properties. Let's encourage people to put more properties into these land trusts so it's not such a peculiar and exceptional property. Let's have more of them. But this is a unique one. It's the first one I've seen. I'm so enthusiastic about this. I'm happy to vote for it.
Julie.
So I have a question and then a comment on this. John, is there any, Charlie, is there any, if we approve this, does that require any sort of permanent affordability by us approving this? That doesn't come with any...
No, the variance relates directly to the structure itself. Okay. And it doesn't have anything to do with the ownership or affordability.
Okay. Thank you. So I have to agree with some people. I'm on the Planning Commission, and we are working really hard to update the comprehensive land use plan, in part because of situations like this, because our affordability is horrendous in this city, and we need more housing. And we want to be able to have multifamily housing in R1 districts for reasons like this. I don't think doing this through zoning variances is the way to do this. I think there are lots of people who would like to have less expensive ADUs that are bigger. And this is not a one-off of that. A lot of people would like to do bigger ADUs. And I don't see, I love the idea of the land trust, but that's not what we're talking about here. This is a zoning variance. And I don't see that it meets any of the things that we are required for. This is an ADU, and we've put requirements, and whether I personally agree with those requirements or not isn't what I'm voting on. We have these rules and regulations throughout the city. These are new builds. They don't have to, it's not like an existing building that already has this. And I mean, there are lots of houses in Ann Arbor that don't have basements. There are lots of houses that aren't very big. There are lots of houses without garages. There are lots of houses without laundry rooms. I mean, our house didn't have a laundry room for the first 20 years. We went to the laundromat. I like the idea of this, but I don't see how I can vote for it. It doesn't, to me, meet any of the determination, that we are required to support. I am very much in favor of doing this on a citywide basis, but I don't feel like I can do this for ZBA.
Todd?
Yes, I have 5 points and then a general comment. My first point is that this is clearly a workaround to avoid the AUD requirement. And the city council, in its wisdom, as Dharma has mentioned, has decided to make a distinction between individual houses and ADUs, which are designed to be typically attached and subordinate. And I would just say regarding square footage, when I was first married, my wife and I lived in Sylvan. It was a 900 square foot house, which is more than enough room for the two of us. But that's sort of an aside. But this is a workaround. It's an improper vehicle to address that. That's something that city council should do. That's my first comment. My second comment, and we often confuse that here because we are all very sympathetic to the emotions underlying this, and this presentation was extremely well organized, one of the best that I have seen in my short time here. And people are very sympathetic, and I get that, and they all would be great people to live in the city. But variances run with the land, as lawyers say, and the individual characteristics of a current owner are irrelevant in our decision-making because the shape of the property devolves to subsequent owners. So the individual sympathies that we correctly have for you logically have no bearing on our decision. That's my second point. My third point is, in other situations like this, not here, is it's more money because it's a bigger home. And that's not typically a proper thing to sway our opinion in favor of something. My fourth point is this is clearly self-imposed. There's nothing that prohibits them from building an 800 ADU. These are workable and livable. There are people who live in all sorts of small apartments in other countries, Singapore and Hong Kong, in much smaller spaces. Americans like big houses and big cars. But what the hell, 800 square feet is workable, it's doable, you don't need a variance, you can do it. And my fifth point is that the ADU is hardly the minimum use of this property. It doesn't meet that criteria. So those are my 5 points. But let me say something that's been bugging me. As a liberal person, I too want a very mixed community, and we should have a variety of income levels in this house. But the city government is screwing up. There's an unstated assumption that by simply building a larger volume of houses, we are going to beat the overall desirability of all sorts of people to live in Ann Arbor and cause a drop in market prices. And that is an unsupported, unsubstantiated assumption based purely on faith. If you want to drop housing prices, you have to look at places like Amsterdam, Paris, God knows, not London, Singapore, where the government has directly built homes, prices controlled by the government, targeted for low and middle income people. Ann Arbor, I used to do construction litigation. Ann Arbor, among some developers, has a lousy reputation because for years they woodshedded developers who want to maximize their profits, making them squeeze in a few low-income apartments in a big building, which the developer then has to make up. That is a plan designed for failure. If you want low property housing in this, the government needs to grab it and do it. Making developers who want to make tons of money to try to make low-income housing by simply having more people is totally doomed to failure. So I sympathize with the beautiful presentation, my sympathies to all of you, but I have to vote no on this.
Dave?
I can see where this is going, and I just want to make a general statement. My colleague on this board, who's also on the Planning Commission, represented the Comprehensive Use Plan. Todd, my colleague to my left here, in his speaking about what the problems are with just increasing density, I think was addressing that comprehensive use plan. I have strong feelings about that plan. It is a boon to developers. It will not...
Point of order. Where are we going with this?
I'm going to this motion. That plan will not reduce, will not provide housing affordability. It's organizations like Avalon, like the Housing Commission, and like the Land Trust, this new entity that's come before us with a proposal which will provide permanent affordability for this housing. That's the route, not making everything throughout the city, every single family lot that you could turn into four units, and I've seen this in Seattle. That will not bring us affordability. What will bring us affordability is proposals like this that the Land Trust is courageously putting before us. Whatever means the city has to make this go forward, I feel like it's my responsibility here on this board to support it and vote for it. So I encourage my other board members here to just recognize this is the solution to affordability, not the comprehensive use plan.
Dharma?
I find it shocking that we have a variance request before us that very clearly shows some of the obstacles to building exactly the housing that this land trust wants to build. And we are saying that making changes to the zoning code aren't going to help this. And we're saying that it should be solved through variance. I don't understand that line of thinking. That's not how we should be thinking on this board. We should be taking the variance requests. We should be looking at what goes with the land, like everyone here has talked about. And I would hope that seeing that variance requests like this come to us and what the obstacles are, make us take a hard look at lot sizes, setbacks, how many units we allow on a lot, because that is exactly what is the problem right here.
But you're doing it for
Can we get
profit.
I'm going to request a motion.
Yeah, are we ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Dave.
A ZBA, there's two motions. I guess we'll do it twice.
No,
There's one.
they're very similar motions. There's
Okay.
one that's
One motion
1780 and
for this address.
1788.
We're
Okay.
doing 1780.
ZBA 25-0015, 1780 Scioto Church Road. Based on findings and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants a 400 square foot variance from Table 5.16-2, lot area and floor area requirements for accessory dwelling units. The maximum area for an ADU for the subject property is 800 square feet. The variance allows for an ADU of 1,200 square feet. The ADU is to be built per the submitted plans.
Thank you, Dave. We have a motion. Do we have support? Todd, thank you. Todd?
No.
Dharma?
No.
Julie?
No.
Dave?
DeMarty, yes.
Christina?
No.
I also vote no. The request is denied. Moving on to, I lost my agenda. Moving on to petition ZBA 25-0016, 1788 Scioto Church Road. John?
This is a similar request. This is the property adjacent directly to the west. Sarah Lawrence, representing property owner, is requesting a 400 square foot variance from table 5.16-2, lot area and floor area requirements for accessory dwelling units, also known as ADUs. Up to one 800 square foot ADU is permitted for a property greater than 7,200 square feet. The proposed ADU is 1,064 square feet in floor area. The property is zoned R1C, single family dwelling district. The subject property is located on the north side of Scioto Church Road and west of Pioneer High School in the Dickin neighborhood. The subject property is 7,492 square feet in area. The parcel has a 30-foot wide access easement on the east side of the parcel that will be used for egress for both 1780 and 1788 Scioto Church Road properties. The lot is currently vacant. The applicants are proposing to construct a new single-family residence with an attached accessory dwelling unit. The primary unit will contain 2,070 square feet of floor area and an accessory dwelling unit with 1,200 square feet of floor area. The primary unit will consist of 3 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. The accessory unit will have 2 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. Both dwelling units will have basements, exterior decks, and an attached 2-car garage. The maximum size allowed for an accessory dwelling unit for a lot that is over 7,200 square feet in area is 800 square feet. The 3 floors of 400 square feet in area exceed the allowable 800 square foot total. If you turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the subject property is highlighted in green in the center of your screen. The next slide is the area map showing surrounding properties and existing conditions. And the next slide shows the subject property on the west side of the property that adjoins 1780. Next slide is the survey that was submitted with the application. And the next slides are the floor plans and elevation drawings of the application and the building permit application that was submitted. Just going through the same slides that we did before. You see the foundation plan on the left and the basement plan on the right. The first floor plan on the right and the second floor plan on the left. Elevation drawings of the proposed construction. Building and cross sections on the next 2 slides. And deck and framing plans. Deck plans. These are the photos that we took on our inspection of the property. You see Scioto Church Road to the west, going from the subject property, mailboxes, sign installed on the property. And the next slides are showing the property in its current configuration. That is all I have at this time. I'll take any questions that you have.
Thank you, John. Questions? All right, if the petition, yes, Todd, sorry.
How is this, I realize the street number is different, but how is it otherwise different from the last proposal we had?
The lot size is smaller on this one, and the orientation of the easement is different. Other than that, it's a very similar request since it's part of a overall combined project.
And the AD request is for 1,200 square feet.
Yes, and
Okay.
just commenting on that from the previous petition, it's a difference of interpretation with the architect, and I talked to the planning manager about this today. Some of the features that are excluded from floor area are stairwells and landings, and stairwells are considered within an interior of a building, but they're separated by a firewall. If you're like familiar with beyond this wall right here, there's a stairwell, but it wouldn't be included in the floor area. It's not usable habitable space. Whereas the interior of these, we'd consider this a staircase, not a stairwell, in a foyer. So that's why staff includes the total floor area with the staircase and foyer, and that's where the difference of interpretation on staircases and stairwells. And
Thank you.
Any other questions for John? All right, if the petitioner is here, if you'd like to come forward, sign in, state your name. I recognize that this is similar to what we've seen before, but.
Excuse me. I'm Sarah Lorenz. I'm the petitioner. A few follow-up comments that I'd like to make. First of all, I'd like to request that the ADU guidebook be corrected on the city website so that it does not say 800 square feet, but it says 800 square feet of floor area, and that it includes the definition of floor area. Those were very important omissions that led to this issue. I would like to clarify for neighbors who are here that the ADU can be constructed and will be constructed with 800 square feet above ground in any instance. The issue was only regarding the basement. And then in terms, we did evaluate a rezoning possibility. So the problem is with the timeline. We are working with real people, as you can see. We are trying to provide housing for real people who are suffering hardship because of their housing situations, and we are trying to get housing built for them. I know them, I know their situations, and they are facing hardship. To make these projects possible, I was told that rezoning would take 6 to 9 months for approval. And then only after the rezoning was approved would we be able to proceed with our housing TIF application, which is the source of the subsidy to be able to build these homes and sell them at these low prices. That, I've been told, can take another 6 months for approval. And then construction could begin. So we're talking 2 to 3 years before we could even get these homes built for these people. And we have other sites with other similar issues. So the timing is very problematic, and we've been discovering multiple tripwires throughout the code. It is not just this. There are half a dozen other things that are preventing us from building these homes. So we will be working to address these issues on multiple levels with many other changes. So you'll be seeing me again soon. Thank you for your service, though. I do appreciate your working on this board.
Thank you. Anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Now's your chance.
Yeah, Chris Allen, again, the architect for ATCLT. Yeah, this situation is quite unique because it is part of the land trust and it'll be deed restricted in terms of the income of people who can live there. So it is a unique situation here. I'm glad you brought that up, Dave. Let's see. John, getting back to the definition of stairwell, I emailed you back in March of last year and asked you specifically about stairwells in ADUs, and you said, no, they're not counted in ADUs. So I'm surprised for tonight to learn that it has to be enclosed in firewalls not to be counted. Is that? Again, I'm getting conflicting information now.
The definition of stairwell is a shaft in a building in which a staircase is built.
Is that in the UDC?
It's a Webster's dictionary definition. But
okay,
clearly in the UDC it says stairwell, so.
Yeah, it says stairwell, but there's no definition of stairwell in the UDC.
I wouldn't call a stairwell an interior staircase. I think there's a distinct difference, but I mean, it's something that we can clean up. If you want to appeal stairwell versus staircase, you can. I mean.
Right.
So.
But again, based upon our interaction back in March of last year, that's how we proceeded with stairwell not being included.
I don't recall. And maybe we had a difference of interpretation or, through an email, it's difficult to determine. I can't.
Well, I can give you the email if you want.
That's fine, but until I look at plans and something's submitted, then, I don't think that's what's causing any granting of a variance or not granting of a variance tonight is the stairwell issue, so.
But again, getting back to Sarah's point, there's some ambiguity about 800 square feet in the guidebook. There's ambiguity about stairwell now in the UDC. There's no definition of stairwell in UDC, so it's frustrating on our part when we're trying to do some good here. to not get clear direction for that. I'll go back and ask, again, this is an open conversation here during this open hearing. Back in February, you approved 160 square feet for 333 Mulholland at a ADU there. Do you recall that hearing, and why did you approve 160 square feet for 333 Mulholland at that time, February 25th? I'm asking. Nobody knows?
Yeah, we consider each application individually, so how we voted previously is
Right.
irrelevant in this
Right.
case.
And each application is unique, of course, and that's why we have ZBAs, because sometimes the code may be not clear, or people have different interpretations, but that's why we come to ZBA for situations just like this. So, in moving forward, I hope we get some clarification about definitions and other things such as that, okay? Again, we saw 333 Mulholland. I know it's a different situation. That got approved for additional floor area for an ADU. We were hopeful that the same consideration be held here tonight for us, but that's not the case. But I appreciate those who supported us tonight, so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak on this petition, please come forward, state your name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm Konstantin Voik, and thank you. You have wonderful points, every one of you. But I was talking about how it's affect neighborhood. But I think we should not make decision based on exception from very beginning. I completely agree that it should be. If you want to build something what completely different, what does not fit in current code, their zoning should be changed. And Sarah just stated that it could be changed and it would be different process, but we don't want put from very beginning self-inflicted exceptions just for being and make some decision based on some kind seems to be moral aspects, like all people poor or this color or tall. Or I used to live in a house with family of 4 in 600 foot without basement. So we should not make judgments based on such kind of criteria. We should do right things right way. If it take longer, then it would take longer, but it would be a right way from the very beginning, and everyone would be happier. So this is my statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak? If there's anyone accessing the meeting remotely, you may press star 9 or use the raise hand button to address the ZBA.
There are no callers at this time.
Thank you, Charlie. With that, the public hearing is closed and we're in discussion. Dave?
This is essentially the same as the last. Let me get my thing on. This is essentially the same as the last one. We could all reiterate our points and then make the same vote. I'm ready to make a motion.
I didn't get a chance.
Yeah, Christina, go ahead.
Before. So just to sort of clarify that codes are always up to the interpretation of the local authority having jurisdiction. I mean, I'm in that space, and that's always a risk that any project can take on. It comes down to the local authority having jurisdiction, no matter how clear you may think a code is written. So obviously tonight, I mean, there's different interpretations, and it's expected. It's part of the process. So on merit, I mean, I'm supportive, obviously, of this type of build in a neighborhood, but I feel like, but there are options to be able to move forward with this project successfully. And it sounds like from the applicant reiterated that during the second presentation, that option does exist without having the basement, because I just wasn't convinced on the need to have that full basement complement the rest of the building. So I'm glad to hear that's on the table, but that's not for us. That's not in our review right now. I mean, we're just looking at the application, how it's presented to us. So I appreciate all the comments
made during the first application, and I just didn't have a chance to say I'm in support of how those were verbalized for those that denied the first application. So thanks for articulating it well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Are we ready for a motion? Oh,
I'm ready
John,
to
did
make
you
a
have
motion.
I was just going to comment further on the ADU guidebook. That's what it is. It's exactly that. It's a guide book. It hasn't been adopted by council. It's not a part of an ordinance. It's something it's a document that staff wrote to help and assist people with the construction of ADUs. What is a guide, or what is ordinance, is section 5.16.6 subsection D in the Unified Development Code. And so the guidebook doesn't say, it says 800 square feet, it doesn't say 800 square feet of floor area. It's impossible for staff to write a guide or a book, a document to cover every scenario.
Yeah.
So just to reiterate that point, that the guidebook is to assist, but it's not part of the Unified Development Code.
Sorry, I had one other element I wanted to bring up. Thanks, John, for that too. I do think, though, in the current design, I think there are opportunities to leverage just for spatial constraints, whether to accommodate storage or the furnace. I think that there's some opportunities, design opportunities there to make it work and not rely on a full basement. Thanks.
I think we're ready for a motion.
ZBA 25-0016, 1788 Scioto Church Road. Based on findings and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants a 400 square foot variance from Table 5.16-2, lot area and floor area requirements for accessory dwelling units, ADUs. The maximum area for an ADU for the subject property is 800 square feet. The variance allows for an ADU of 1,200 square feet. The ADU is to be built per the submitted plans.
Thank you, Dave. We have a motion. Do we have support? From Todd, thank you. Dave?
DeVarty, yes.
Christina?
No.
I also vote no. Todd?
No.
Dharma?
No.
Julie?
No.
The request is denied. Moving on to petition ZBA 25-0018, 3675 Washtenaw Avenue. John?
I'm actually going to let Charlie take over on this one, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to have our applicant.
The applicant was present in the online opportunity here.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, perfect.
Sorry.
I was watching it on my way here.
Sorry, Tina. I was confused. I'll go ahead and give the staff report now on ZBA 25-0018, 3675 Washtenaw Avenue. Tina Arcuri, representing property owner, is requesting a 6-foot height variance from Table 5.24-3, other mixed use and non-residential and special purpose zoning districts permanent signs. The proposed signage is 26 feet in height. The permitted height for signage is 20 feet maximum. This property is zoned TC1, Transit Corridor District. The subject property is located on the north side of Washtenaw Avenue between Chalmers Drive and US 23. The property is in the Arborland Shopping Center. According to city assessor's records, the building was erected in early 1960s prior to site plan approvals. Table 5.24-3, other mixed use and non-residential and special purpose zoning districts, permanent signs requires wall signs to be in the lowest 20 feet of the building when installed on a building less than 45 feet in total height. The subject building is approximately 35 feet in overall height. The applicant requests a variance to install a wall sign at a maximum height of 26 feet instead of the required 20. John, if you could flip to the first slide. Here is a zoning map, the subject property highlighted in blue, reminder, Arborland Shopping Center. Here's an aerial image with the current conditions zoomed in of the shopping plaza. John is hovering over the exact location of where the subject sign will be. Here is a front elevation detailing the height, which is 26 feet, and 35 feet is the total overall height for this building. Here are photos taken on site by staff. Can flip to the next, and that is all for the staff presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Charlie. Any questions? Yes, Julie.
So this took the place, I think, of like Marshall's. Do you know where the sign was?
I don't know where the sign was for Marshall's. John might.
Well, speaking to that, the previous sign would have been possibly non-conforming to today's code because the new sign ordinance was adopted in late 2020. And so now we're starting to see a lot of the signs as
Right,
tenants
that's it, 'cause
move
this is
and
like
change,
the
and there's a
third
lot
or
of,
fourth one.
there's a lot of re-imaging, things like that happen. And so when one sign comes down, the new one is expected to meet the current code, whereas the previous one did not.
Any other questions for staff? All right. If you're ready to make your presentation, please sign in, state your name. You'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Tina Arcuri. Do you need my address? A lot of times, okay.
Can you state your name again? I'm sorry.
Tina Arcuri.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for hearing this. I know how to clear a room. And I need to say that I feel that this variance is so frivolous based on what I just heard. So just hear me out, though. So I represent Ross Dress for Less. I've worked with them for a lot of different projects. Their branding is very specific. They actually wanted a larger sign here, which I told them just go with they have a couple of different versions of their sign. They have the regular stacked, which has a big Ross, and then Dress for Less underneath. This sign is actually called the linear stacked version of the sign, so you have the Dress for Less on the side. The reason they're asking for the 26-foot height is, yes, visibility. Additionally, the sign at 6 feet lower, aesthetically, it's not going to be in the middle of that sign band. And it's part of their branding and they really just want it to be in line with the other, which might not be within code because they were older signs, but that Arbor Land Shopping Center, this sign at this height, 6 feet above what's allowed by the UDO, is in line with all the other signage that is in that shopping center. I can't speak for the exact height of the Marshall sign, but I do know that it was in the center of that band. We saw pictures of it. We found them online as to what was there prior. That's really, I guess that's really what we have. DSW, you could kind of see it past that tree, but where the Ross Dress for Less sign would be, it would actually be in line with the other signs that are in that shopping center at the extra 6-foot height. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would just, aesthetically, it just, I don't know, I think it would just look better with the extra 6 feet above, because it won't, it'll, yeah.
Is there any trim that kind of DSW, or is there a shelf that went around that?
No, it's exactly what you see. That's exactly how it's going to look. It's just that sign band above the front door, and the sign would just, it's, at the 26-foot height, it's centered right in the middle of that sign band. Yeah.
Is that a similar installation to the other Ross in town? Isn't there a Ross on your target?
Yeah, they're all done the same way. They have all their state. Like I said, that main facade sign varies depending on code in different jurisdictions, but they have a main facade, they have their 2 wall plaques, and they have the under canopy sign. I permit them all day.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Todd?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just going to recap for our member who just stepped out for a second. Dave?
That's fine.
Oh, all right. I was going to give you a brief recap, but
I did say that my variance was very frivolous based on what I just heard.
And originally, this came in, I think, as a building permit, sign permit, and it was for 400 square feet, and obviously it was denied, and I had discussions with the petitioner, and they didn't ask for an area sign at all. They revised their project to meet the 200 square feet, but the only variance request tonight is for 6 feet in height to try to align it, or to center it on the face of that building, and it will be aligned with the neighboring tenant at DSW. And just to catch you up, just.
The size of the signage, the size.
The area is not part of the, nothing on the request, it's just a 6-foot height variance. So just to bring you up to speed on that.
Todd, you had a question?
Yes, first of all, I like Ms. McCurry. If you weren't going to be here originally, but virtually, I'm glad you showed up in person. I have problems, I think applicants disadvantage themselves when they show up on a little TV screen. They're just better if somebody is here physically. So thank you for showing that.
Well, I apologize. I wasn't late because the other two were very long, but I was nervous that I was going to be late. I flew in from Charleston this afternoon. My flight was delayed, which...
That's great. Cool.
I did. Ross flies me everywhere for them.
My question to you, if you had to comply with a 20-foot, it wouldn't be the wording would actually bump down into the window area. It just wouldn't be in the center of the top part of the building structure, correct? You could still put a sign at 20 feet, it just wouldn't be centered.
Correct. It wouldn't be centered in that sign band, yeah. It would be... Charlie, I can't see that far. What's the height from the... What's the height to the bottom of the sign?
The bottom of the sign is 20 feet to the grade, so the bottom of the lettering would be 20 feet.
So the bottom of the lettering, if you look at the drawings, that's what I thought, I just wanted to make sure. So the bottom of those letters would be where the top of the letters would be.
Excuse me, 21 feet. Yeah, 21 feet.
So it would be about, so it would bring it much closer to the top of the...
Or of course you could shrink the script, but then you would...
Well, we're already within code. They did shrink it quite a bit from what they initially wanted, yeah, to make it within code.
Any other questions for the applicant? Dave, sorry.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here.
Of course.
We all serve without any pay. It's a volunteer
and I do
thing.
appreciate all of your service.
I really appreciate when applicants have the respect for the board that they appear, and I really want to thank you. And I hope you were able to get here from Charleston in time to experience the wonderful storm that we had.
I did. I was actually in downtown Detroit.
Okay. But anyway,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that.
It's my first time in Michigan, by the way.
I know Todd already said that, but I wanted to...
It's only a 2-hour flight from Charleston. I had no idea. And I'm like, wait, Canada? Wait, what? Huh? But yeah, Detroit is beautiful. I love older cities. I have an appreciation for architecture, not only because of what I do, but just I'm old. And I'm originally from New York, so architecture. So I love that you guys have a lot of Detroit has a lot of old buildings and super cool city. And I got a sketty sandwich from Mom's Spaghetti, M&M's restaurant. Yeah.
Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you very much. I see no one here, but if there's anyone online who wishes to speak on this petition, now's your chance.
Anybody calling from Charleston?
No callers at this time.
Thank you, Charlie. With that, the public hearing is closed and we are in discussion. Todd?
All right. I'm sympathetic, but my theory about signage is businesses want as big a signage they can possibly get. I understand that. Our first criterion is that this business is facing a practical difficulty unique to this property. It's not, because all the businesses in Arborland, as we well know, are set back from Washtenaw. You can't see them when driving from Washtenaw if you're crazy enough to ignore traffic and look that way, because Firestone, Bell Tire, the gas stations, Starbucks, they all block your view. And you don't see the businesses until you get there. So seeing the business from Washtenaw isn't really a reason to give them a variance. And I always like to think that, There's an Apple store at Briarwood. There's no sign anywhere outside the mall at Briarwood. But most of the time when my wife and I go to the Apple store, it's pretty busy. That's not how people find business today. And the problem the business has, and every applicant who wants a bigger sign when they're just starting out, is you have to make a factually unsupported assumption that if you don't have a bigger sign, you're going to have fewer customers. And that's unsupported. Thirdly, this is completely self-imposed. The reason I asked the question about dropping down to 20 or 21 feet is they can do the sign. It's not as if it's going to hang in the windows, which would mitigate, which would be in favor of them granting a variance. They can simply lower the words. It won't be in the middle, and I understand that for an aesthetic perfectionist, that's a little bit of a problem, but they don't really need a variance. And they can still operate their business with a lower sign. So I'm sympathetic, but I think I have to vote no on this.
Any other discussion? Julie?
So I'm just looking at my old friend Google here. And it looks like the DSW actually is lower. It's lower than the Marshall sign was. So I don't know if anybody knows where the DSW, if that's at 20 feet, but it looks like it's pretty close to where the it's hard to say from the.
I think that I am not positive, but it looks like the articulation, there's the facade is taller on the Ross than it is in the DSW.
But it's not tall enough to bump it over at 45 feet.
Correct. It's not 45. It's probably 35 feet.
I'll just say quickly, we've seen a lot of these signs recently, both at Arborland, out at, Maple Village, and other shopping centers around town. I recognize that it gets a little squirrely when you're putting a new sign on a facade that was clearly designed to accept a sign and support a sign in a certain spot that is no longer the permitted spot. And it can be a little bit challenging when you're the new guy on the block and you've got to put your sign lower and your neighbors are still up at the high spot. Ideally, though, over time, as all of the signs are replaced, they'll all come down to where that new standard is and everybody will be in line again. So yeah, while I'm sympathetic that maybe it's not the most aesthetically pleasing location for the sign, I think in this case, there's nothing physically prohibiting the sign from being lower. It just is offset. So I don't know that there's anything particularly unique about this case that would justify a variance for the taller height. So that's kind of where I'm at on this one. Dave?
I'm with my colleagues on this. If it's doable without the variance, I think we're almost forced to vote no. As an artist, I just want to say there are virtues in asymmetry in terms of drawing visual attention. And I think that could work to your advantage if you have to not have the sign centered in that space.
Any other discussion? We ready for a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Thank you, Dave.
ZBA 25-0017, 3675 Washtenaw Avenue. Based on findings and in accordance with the established standards for approval, The Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants a 6-foot height variance from Table 5.24-3, other mixed-use and non-residential and special purpose zoning districts permanent. Zoning districts permanent signage, is there a word missing here on this? Well, whatever it is, it'll be corrected in the minutes. The proposed signage is 26 feet in height. The permitted height for signage is 20 feet maximum. The sign is to be installed per the submitted plans.
Thank you, Dave. Do we have support? Thank you, Dharma. Julie?
No.
Dave?
DeVarty, no.
Christina?
No.
I also vote no. Todd?
No.
Dharma?
No.
The request is denied. Moving on, we have no unfinished business. New business.
Thank you very much.
Pizza in the casino it is.
Check out Ann Arbor.
Or a Coney dog at Lafayette.
Wait, where? So I'm all about food. I'm an ex-chef. I worked at the Food Network, so anytime I travel for these, I always have to go.
Yeah, you gotta
check
go to
out food.
Lafayette, not
Go to
American.
Lafayette, not American.
Yeah.
They're right next to each other.
Well, Zingerman's Deli is very good. That's nationally known. It's a great deli. Zingerman's.
There's plenty in Arbor. You only have to, yeah.
Where's the best Detroit pizza, though? Yeah? Yeah, Detroit. They have this place in Charleston, it's called Jets Pizza.
Jets.
And they serve Detroit pizza, Detroit-style pizza. And everybody in Charleston is like, oh, it's Detroit-style pizza. I'm like, that's not Detroit-style. I need to get real pizza. Thank you.
Good night.
New business reports from council. Dharma?
Not directly relevant, but you might be interested to know that we passed our green rental housing ordinance at our last council meeting, and this is to enforce kind of a base level of energy efficiency on our rental properties. So excited about that. Things like air sealing, better insulation, and there's lots of resources to help folks comply, and so that's it.
That'll be adopted in Chapter 105 of the Housing Code.
All right, communication. We didn't receive any communication this month. Public comment. If there's anyone who wishes to speak to the ZBA on any matter whatsoever, now's your chance. There's no one here, but if there's anyone online, if they'd like to speak to the ZBA, press *9 or use the raise hand button.
No callers at this time.
Thank you, Charlie. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Dharma. Support?
Support.
From Dave. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.